All right, we're good.
All right. Welcome. Henrico County Middle School students have used Lexia PowerUp for the past 5 years. All of our middle school students have access to Lexia PowerUp through the Clever app on their HCPS computer. Teachers use Lexia as a tool for reading intervention. Our students that need reading support engage with Lexia and small group instruction 2 to 3 days a week with either their English teacher or a reading specialist that teaches the Literacy Foundations class. Some students use Lexia PowerUp from time to time in their English class, especially to support grammar instruction. All students can use Lexia PowerUp at home for additional practice in word study, grammar, and comprehension. Lisa Anderson, our Customer Success Manager, will share with you more about Lexia PowerUp. Then I will share some information about the VALS testing that many of your students have recently participated in. We will conclude the evening with hands-on activities and games that you can take home to work with your child to support their reading development. Lisa Anderson has been our Customer Success Manager for the last 4 years. She is an Henrico parent with students in our schools. She is an advocate for quality literacy instruction, and I am thrilled that she is here tonight to share with you how we can partner to use Lexia PowerUp in meeting the needs of all of our students.
Thank you, Kendall. I am excited to be here today with everyone to show you a little bit more about PowerUp and to really welcome all of our family members as learning partners. Like I said, we want today to be an opportunity for you to learn how PowerUp supports your student through them using the online platform at their school, then their teachers using the data to support some of that instructional decision making to ensure that the instruction students receive is personalized to what they need, and then also giving teacher external instructional resources that they can use with the students as they are supporting what they need with regards to skills. We're also going to talk today about how you can best support your student at home and the ways to discuss implementation with your child's school so that we can all be better together in this partnership. So first, let's jump into why PowerUp. We know there are many different technology programs out there, and PowerUp is a little different than some of the ones you may be familiar with. So let's watch this video, and then we'll dig into some of the components that make this blended learning model such a high contributor to the success of students.
Lexia PowerUp Literacy is an adaptive blended learning program that accelerates literacy gains for struggling readers in grades 6 through 12. All in one program, educators can support their students' diverse literacy needs, whether they're several grade levels behind or show some risk of not meeting college and career-ready standards. Most importantly, PowerUp is research proven to be up to 5 times as effective as the average middle school reading intervention program, helping students cover multiple grade levels of skills in a single school year. In PowerUp, students are challenged and encouraged to take ownership of their learning, delivering an unparalleled level of personalization and adaptive instruction. Each student makes progress at their own pace. Designed to respect the maturity of today's adolescent learner, PowerUp teaches even the most foundational of reading skills through relevant, age-appropriate content. PowerUp helps secondary educators, regardless of their background in reading, confidently deliver targeted literacy instruction by providing them with actionable, real-time student data and instructional materials, all without stopping to administer a test. And for school and district leadership, PowerUp provides a full picture of the grade levels of skills students are working on and helps monitor academic progress as students close the gaps.
So, one of the things you may have heard throughout that video is how PowerUp is not just a computer program. It is built on the adaptive blended learning model, which takes 3 components: the student program, data for educators, and then instructional resources, all led by the teacher to support student literacy development. All of this is done at a personalized level for your student at the beginning of the year, either this year or it could have been in one of the previous years. Your student would have completed an auto placement. This assessment is one time, it's adaptive, and it differentiates what your student needs by putting them at the appropriate instructional level. So that's done at the beginning. And then throughout, as students are working through the program, ongoing data is collected that is stored in a system called Lexia. This data is where teachers go in to see what additional support students may need based on how they've progressed in the program. So hopefully that helps you to see how it's not something we just put students on for additional practice. It's much larger than that, with really supporting them every step of the way. As Kendall said earlier, Power Up teaches a variety of skills, and it is based on the research that we have about the science of reading with regards to how students best develop with skilled reading comprehension. And what we know through the simple view of reading is that strong reading comprehension is actually depends on having word recognition. So being able to pull the words off the page, really focusing on some of these individual skills here, but then also language comprehension. So thinking about different skills that students may need and different syntax of how the words are written and how that also helps students construct meaning. So all three of these work together. And if you'd like additional information about our scope and sequence with regards to our curriculum, this QR code here will take you into a link for that. Talked earlier about students completing a personalized placement, and your student has already done this. And so what you can see if you have them log on to their platform is where they have been placed. If they are more in a foundational level, that means we're supporting skills that they learned early on. These may be things that students learn but have not yet mastered. And so the program gives them that additional opportunity to do so. They can place at different areas though, because students may have strengths in one particular area, such as we see with this student. Word study is definitely a strength for her, but two areas she needs to continue to focus would be with grammar and comprehension to continue supporting that upward movement into the advanced zone. So if you take a look at your student's dashboard, you will be able to gather some of this information about where they are. First of all, the progress tile, which you can actually find from their main dashboard right here, will give you that information as far as where students have placed. We can see what level they're on here. And you can see as they progress to the end of each strand, that is our goal, is to finish units as we go through and really track how many units they're gaining and how many they have remaining to continue supporting that level. Teachers work with students to manage these goals, but this is somewhere that parents can definitely come in and family members. Just celebrating the great work that they've done. Streaks are something students get a record for when they get an answer correct. So if you see numbers here in your streak column, that tells you your student's doing really well. We also can see how many minutes they're spending on a daily basis. And so this helps as family members help to encourage and motivate students to reach those goals that they set. The dashboard that students have will allow you to start that conversation. Some questions that you can ask your student is, what goals do you have for usage in PowerUp? Is there a particular strand that your teacher has asked you to focus on? That may be based on where students are, and we're prioritizing what piece of that simple view of reading they need. It may be more of a word study focus, or we may see more of a language comprehension focus. Ideally, though, we want students working in all three strands because that is what continues to support that skilled comprehension. We can also ask students if there's a strand or a skill they need help in understanding. And then finally, of course, what are you proud of when working with PowerUp? Students do have the opportunity, if teachers choose to do so, to earn certificates as they go through. So reach out to your child's teacher if you have questions about that and how you can monitor and support. If you do see your student working on the program at home, one of the ways you can easily gauge how they're doing is to look at the progress bar at the bottom of their screen. If you see that that is in green, that means that your student is doing great with the activity. The artificial intelligence in the computer is giving them some directions, it's giving them an activity, and then they are completing that activity correctly. If you see that the bar on the bottom of the screen has turned to yellow, that's just an indicator to you that the student is receiving some additional support from the program. It may be giving them some additional help with regards to identifying an anchor chart that may support, or a video, or even just asking it in a different way. So if you see a yellow bar, you may ask your student, make sure they understand the directions, make sure they understand what it's asking of them. We just ask that you do not offer too much support in this area. The reason for that is because the teachers are using this data to determine if students have that direct instruction need. The explicit teaching will happen by the teacher in the class. And so that's why we don't want parents helping too much, because then the teacher won't realize that that may be an area that the student needs some additional support. There are, as I said, many reports that teachers use. Here's just a couple viewpoints of what they have. Teachers use this reports to see as a class as a whole how they're progressing, and to help with grouping students so that they may have the opportunity to work with peers on common skills during our small group instruction. Teachers also can dig very deep into student level work, even being able to see with the detailed skills report, which is our highest level, exactly what that progression looked like through the activity. Did the student complete it in one try and do well? Or is there definitely a need for some offline teacher-led instruction to support? So again, from these reports, you can see the blended learning model in action. For your students to access the program, they will use the HCPS Clever portal. They should know how to do this, but just direct them to look for the orange lightning bolt when they're logging in, and that should take them directly in. If you would like to log into PowerUp, not as your student, but as a demo account, these are the credentials that you can use to do that. The URL of www.lexiapowerup.com is what you would use. It will prompt you to put a teacher email. This is the email that you will use. Once you do that, it will then ask for a username and a password. And once you fill all that out, it'll take you directly into the student program so that you can choose a strand to practice and go in and see what your students do. If your student has the opportunity to log on and show you for themselves, that's always better, because they're very proud of how they interact through the program. And you can ask them about their streaks and levels completed and units, just so that they know you know some of the same lingo and that you are interested and encouraging as they move through. These are some additional questions you can use and ask to support your student at home. Again, consistently reviewing and discussing that Lexia progress and using that progress tile will help you answer these 4 questions. Your teacher may already have set goals with the student, but if for some reason they haven't, or your student is not aware of those goals, you can also think about looking at that progress tile and just having some conversations about, let's say this week you're going to get 12 goal units. We're going to try to get 60 minutes on the program. That's just a good way to get them to celebrate and to reach those weekly goals, because as you heard with the video, this program is really designed to be very student directed as they move through. And there are additional resources that you can find in our My Lexia Community Center. If you scan this QR code, that will take you right into our PowerUp Family Resource page. And from here, you can see different activities that you could offer at home, and it also can answer any additional questions that you may have about the product itself. So I'll turn it back over to you, Kendall, to talk a little bit about how this relates to vowels.
Thank you, Lisa. So many students have just taken the Virginia Language and Literacy Screening System, or VALS assessment. And This assessment is a new required assessment by the Virginia Department of Education as part of the Literacy Act, which has expanded from grades K through 3 to include grades 4 through 8. So if your middle school child took the VALS assessment, you received a Parent Square message with the results of their VALS testing. If you have specific questions about your child's performance, you can reach out to your child's school administrator or English teacher. The VALS testing consisted of several subtests. Students completed an oral reading fluency where they read both a fiction passage and a nonfiction passage out loud to their teacher. And we looked at words correct per minute. VALS wants students in middle school to be reading at an average of 130 words per minute. However, my professional opinion is if we get students reading at 100 words per minute or slightly over that, they definitely have an increased opportunity to be successful with comprehension. So oral reading fluency was one component. If the oral reading fluency was less than 130 words per minute, students were also given a word reading test as well as a nonsense word reading test. And this is to show us the decoding skills that students are using or may need additional practice with. So that really addresses some of the phonics that students may have gaps with. The VALS assessment also assessed their spelling, and sometimes the spelling is a direct correlation to that word reading and nonsense word reading, and again, really gives us an idea whether their phonics skills are strong or need some work. They took a subtest that was titled Morphology, and that subtest deals with prefixes, suffixes, and roots, and making sure that students could use the correct type of word or word to complete a sentence. So we do a lot of work in middle school with morphology, so that can happen in the English class as well as in intervention if your student is receiving intervention. The last subtest that was part of VALS was the sentence comprehension. So this did not relate to what they've already read in that oral reading fluency test, but the sentence comprehension was a multiple choice, but fill in the blank. There was 1 to 2 sentences, and students had to select the correct vocabulary word to fill in the blank to make the sentence make sense. None of the sentences from item to item were related. They were just all individual topics, pretty heavy on science and social studies concepts in that sentence comprehension. So if your student participated in VALS and has some weaknesses in any of these areas, they will be working on these areas in Lexia as well as small group instruction in the classroom with their teacher. If you are interested in additional activities or next steps for your student, please reach out to their teacher. You can contact the school administrator or their English teacher for more information on what you might want to do at home in addition to working with Lexia to support students with these skills that were tested as part of VALS.